A very warm welcome, dear 1000 PS friends from beautiful Switzerland here at Yamaha. Today we are testing the Yamaha TMAX 2025 models and we are finding out whether they truly deserve the title of Maxi King in the scooter segment. So make sure to stay tuned. Ich liebe Maxi-Scooter-Vergleiche. Before we compare the two 2025 models, or rather the Euro 5 Plus models, with each other, I would first like to briefly explain what has changed compared to the 2024 model. And very clearly, the biggest factor for me is that both models now have IMU-controlled cornering ABS. That means that in the past, there was simply conventional ABS. And now the motorcycle, or rather the scooter, has become a bit smarter and simply gives you additional safety. If you ride more sportily through corners and really have to brake hard, this should now be safer and a bit more confidence-inspiring. Visually, you can also see that there has been a small facelift at the front. The whole thing looks a bit slimmer, a bit more pared down, but fundamentally I would say the difference is not all that big. In terms of riding behavior, it is still the 562 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine paired with a CVT transmission. For everyone who has noticed, Yamaha has this new topic with AMT, meaning the automated manual transmission. There are scooters that come with an automated manual gearbox, but here we still have a completely conventional CVT. That means it feels like a scooter when you twist the throttle. There are no gears being shifted through, and you also cannot shift manually, precisely because it is still a CVT transmission. In addition, a few things have been improved in terms of comfort, also in the technology department and the display. In principle, it is now possible to project navigation from Garmin directly onto the display. More on that later. There are quite a few things, or many things, where the two scooter model variants are the same or identical, and that is definitely the power. As mentioned, it is the same engine that is installed, which by the way delivers 35 kilowatts of power. That means both vehicles can be ridden with an A2 or full A license without restriction, which I actually find pretty cool. In addition, both weigh exactly the same, 220 kilograms including fluids, and they both have the same wheelbase of 1,575 millimeters. One of the most important aspects of a vehicle in everyday riding situations is its agility and how it handles. The TMAX has a wheelbase of 1,575 millimeter, which is actually normal in this category of scooters, but it still looks massive. Maybe someone of you is wondering or worried, can you ride this thing easily, especially in the city? To check that, we will make a small handling course here. Unfortunately, I don't have any traffic cones, but I have quite a lot of Coke cans here. And as you can see, those 24 cans fit really easily in the 32-liter compartment under the seat here. And Marco, if you're watching this by chance, all the best to you. The handling test honestly surprised me a bit because I really thought it would be more difficult due to this long wheelbase. Also worth briefly mentioning, we have 15-inch wheels fitted here on both the TMAX and the Techmax, and that worked incredibly well. I have to say the turn-in behavior is very easy to modulate. That means that in the slalom I could basically turn in fully straight away and still never had the feeling that I was strongly losing balance or anything like that. So the straight line stability combined with the steering behavior had a very positive effect, even when riding in circles. I did get a little dizzy, but it simply worked very well. And personally, I am a huge fan of this fairing around the handlebars. That means you really have this static appearance. The mirrors are also mounted on the outside. That gives you excellent visibility, even when you are maneuvering or riding the slalom. and your view always goes straight back because the mirrors are not mounted on the handlebars themselves, but on the fairing. And I think that is really perfectly solved for this situation. Where the two differ is actually mainly in the technology, hence TechMax. Very prominently, you can see this windscreen here. On the TechMax, it is electronically adjustable, whereas on the normal TMAX or standard TMAX, it is not adjustable. I would say the height of the non-adjustable windscreen is roughly in the middle between the lowest and the highest setting of the electrically adjustable windscreen. Then on the TechMax, we additionally have heated grips with 3 levels and also standard seat heating for both rider and passenger. That means you are well equipped for bad weather. Also fitted on the TechMax, but not available on the standard TMAX, is cruise control. That is new for 2025 and is really very well tuned. You can adjust the cruise control via the joystick or the buttons by up to 10 kilometers per hour if you hold it down, or in 1 kilometer per hour increments, which I personally always find very important. And they really did a great job with that. In addition, as mentioned earlier, navigation with a map projected directly onto the display is also possible on the TechMax, only available on the TechMax. Finally, another difference between the TechMax and the TMAX is that the TechMax is equipped with a tire pressure monitoring system. That means you always know how much pressure you have in the tires. And for anyone who is very particular about suspension setup, the TechMax offers more flexibility, because here you can adjust the rear suspension depending on how you like it. I will already mention the most important point up front, the price. For a luxury scooter like this, and this really is the luxury segment, you have to calculate around 14,000 for the standard TMAX and around 16,500 for the TMAX Tech MAX. At least in Switzerland, these are Swiss franc prices. But I also have to say the statistics show that 90% of people who choose the TMAX ultimately decide on the Tech MAX in Switzerland. And with all the upgrades you get on the Tech MAX, that makes sense in my opinion. But of course, everyone has their own ideas or simply their own criteria that need to be met. And before we talk about connectivity and the display, let's maybe do a quick walk around so you can see what you actually get for that price. As already mentioned, the TechMax received a special update for the year 2025, which is supposed to make navigation easier by allowing a Garmin map to be mirrored onto the display. Unfortunately, however, the whole connectivity topic does not work particularly well for me at the moment. To demonstrate it briefly, you can pair your smartphone with the scooter relatively easily without navigation. That is actually no problem. It works normally via Bluetooth, where you search on your phone and connect. You can then listen to audio, change your music, basically everything you can hear through your helmet via a communication system. You can also make phone calls or accept incoming calls. And that is pretty much it. If you now want to mirror navigation onto the display, you first have to connect the scooter to your phone using the My Yamaha app. That already failed for me because I somehow could not log in due to an error in the app. And secondly, you need the Garmin Motorize app, which is somehow very unintuitive and feels very outdated. You apparently also have to connect things with a cable for it to work, but I do not have the right cable because I already have the new iPhone. So overall, it is just extremely cumbersome. Unfortunately, I really did not manage to get it working for the test. And even if it were working, the navigation itself is quite outdated. That is why, for me personally, it is kind of a case of better to leave it alone until there is a really modern, up-to-date solution that actually works and is easy to use, instead of installing some strange old solution into a new motorcycle or scooter and then calling that a feature. And then it is also obvious that you might say, okay, I would rather just use my phone with a handlebar mount for navigation, which is what I personally often do anyway. But even there, you run into limits with the TMAX. The handlebars look great, everything looks clean and nice, but it is very difficult to find a place to mount something so that you can actually keep your phone in view. And for that reason, with a scooter, a maxi scooter in this price range, I would like to ride it for longer distances. I might want to do an Alpine Pass tour, for example, and as things stand now, it is actually not really practical to have proper navigation on the scooter, which I personally find a bit of a shame. When it comes to the display, I honestly have very little to complain about otherwise. I love the fact that it is simply a normal standard 7-inch TFT display that does not look like some kind of video game or overly exaggerated design. It is cool, it is clean, it shows you everything you need and still manages to give you a modern feeling. You also have the option to switch between different display layouts. I think there are up to 5 designs where you can change how the speed in kilometers per hour is displayed or how the rev range is shown. That is a fun gimmick for the younger generation, probably more exciting than for the older generation. As you can see, the weather has worsened a bit, but these are actually perfect conditions to test the long-distance comfort of the TMAX, the TechMax, or even the standard TMAX. We have now ridden on the highway, again with the TechMax, because it has exactly those features that really stand out in this scenario. But in general, you can say that the TMAX rides very well on the highway, and I think that is important because anyone who buys a scooter in this price segment probably wants to do longer rides from time to time. Even on the highway, you notice that it pulls really well up to around 90 or 100 kilometers per hour. After that, there is still more to come, but especially when merging onto the highway, you really get moving well and you feel safe. And once you have settled in on the highway, another cool feature that I really appreciate on a scooter is cruise control. And here it is not just a simple on or off cruise control. As with high-end motorcycles, you can adjust it in 1 kilometer per hour increments. And if you hold the button down, it changes in steps of 10. That is really very pleasant and, in my opinion, absolutely necessary for highway riding to really increase comfort. Moving on to the seating position in general on the TMAX, very friendly for your backside, let's put it that way. The seat is wide and very comfortably soft. And even though we have not tried it yet with a passenger, there is also plenty of space back there. And if, as mentioned earlier, you were to mount a top case, you would really have a very clean and comfortable seating position even when riding 2 up. The electronically adjustable windscreen is also extremely cool. The only thing I have to say here is that the screen itself is already relatively long and fairly large. And when you extend it fully, it does start to wobble a bit. That might not have happened if the screen started lower, but let's say that is a compromise. In return, you can see through the lower part better, and in terms of turbulence, it actually does its job very well. When it is raised, you hardly feel anything at the helmet. And if you want to catch a bit more air, especially when it is warm, you lower the screen again, and that works very well. One thing I would have liked to see is this. The first time you have to go into the menu to adjust the screen electronically. There are other motorcycles where you have dedicated buttons right on the handlebar. Or I personally would have solved it similarly to the cruise control, where you could move it up and down when cruise control is not active. But okay, it works, and it works really well. The last thing that comes standard on the TechMax are the heated grips and the heated seat. Not just for you, but also for your partner if you want to take someone along. And I really appreciated that as well. I mean, it is the end of July, but it feels like 12 degrees. On the highway, it is even cooler. The warmth coming up from the seat and the warm grips add a lot of comfort. If you say you want to go on an Alpine tour, leave early in the morning, or even just commute to work, the sun does not shine every day. That is great. One thing I would add is that maybe there could have been a bit more protection around the hands as standard, perhaps some hand guards or something like that, which can probably be retrofitted from the accessories catalog. That would have been nice in terms of weather protection. But overall, it is a great scooter, even for longer rides, especially when you are riding at higher speeds. And that is where I have to say the Yamaha TMAX Tech MAX definitely works even better than the standard version. And in that case, the upgrades are absolutely worth it. So, my friends, and one very important thing about this Yamaha scooter here is that it comes with a sport mode. That means it should probably be a lot of fun to ride it a bit more aggressively as well. And for that, we have a guest in today's video. Mara, you ride a lot on the racetrack, you are out riding a lot, and you ride pretty fast. Yes. How was it for you when you rode this beautiful Yamaha TMAX now for the first time? How did it feel?
I have to say that the first and last time I rode a scooter was when I was 16 years old. So I was definitely very skeptical about taking this thing out and chasing corners. But it turned out that it can actually be a lot of fun. I am much more used to clamping the motorcycle between my legs and sitting folded up on the bike, making myself as small as possible. And on this machine, you really sit on top of it and you are not as connected to the motorcycle as you are used to. But then again, it is a scooter after all.
But now, I actually wanted to say that because you have said motorcycle twice now. I think you can really tell that this scooter does bring some motorcycle feeling with it. Like you said, the riding position, especially when you put your heels forward, is almost like on a cruiser. But still, in terms of riding behavior, when you really get on the gas, it feels a bit like a motorcycle. What I noticed is this pure parallel twin engine. It has a belt drive and the power just builds smoothly and consistently across the entire rev range. That character of a real scooter is still there, but in terms of power, I honestly think they did a really awesome job. After all, it still has a curb weight of 220 kilograms. For my part, I found that once you are riding, it is actually impressive how briskly it moves along with those 35 kilowatts. But when you then have to stop, or you take a wrong turn and need to turn around, how did that feel for you in those situations? With the motorcycle, or rather with the scooter?
I am 1.65 meters tall, not quite 60 kilograms in weight, and I really struggled to move this motorcycle when standing still. Even if there was just a slight incline, I could not push it backwards. The seat height is only 800 millimeters on paper, but you always have to take figures like that with a bit of caution. That is because we have a relatively wide seat here, which results in a larger step over width. And with my height of 1.65 meters, you definitely notice that when maneuvering, you lose a bit of confidence there.
Exactly. And that is something I also have to say at the end of my test verdict. It is cool that the scooter has 35 kilowatts and that you can ride it with an A2 or restricted A license. Especially if you are a car driver who wants to get into the motorcycle world, that is pretty cool. But if you are an 18-year-old beginner who maybe has a more petite build, I think you will start sweating relatively quickly. Aside from that though, the scooter is thoroughly versatile and well suited for everyday use. Whether it is highway riding or city traffic, whether you are riding slowly or stuffing 24 cans of cola under the seat, it can actually do pretty much everything quite well. A solid all-round vehicle. And as you can see on the way up here into the mountains, we also had a few gravel sections which it handled quite well. What do you think, Mara? Have you ever ridden off-road before?
So at first I thought to myself, are you kidding me? And then I was like, no, I just have to get through this now. Okay, stay relaxed. And it worked damn well. It worked really well. I was relaxed. The suspension did a great job. I did not have a single moment where I thought, uh-oh. So I am honestly very positively surprised by the scooter and by myself as well.
Yes, you did a great job as well. I'm proud of you. For what we have seen now, what it can do and where it really shines, I honestly think the price is justified. If someone says, hey, I don't want to give up the comfort of storage space, protection from the elements, and relaxed cruising, then I think this is an alternative that is still truly solid and convincing in 2025. Feel free to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. Leave a like and ride safe at all times. See you next time.